Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Heroes Podcast. Pete, the real Pete Kirkwood, my co-host. Haha, what's the topic?
Well, today, brother, we have a really good topic. I'm really excited to discuss this one. We're talking about hero, monster, or both.
Yeah.
Because do we have an inner monster inside of us? That is the question, right? Sometimes we get brought up being told that we do. Sometimes we feel like we do. Are we really, all good? Are we really 100% evil? Can anyone be one or the other? Is it a mixture of both? We have these sort of questions. And I saw a short clip of Jordan Peterson referencing being a monster.
Right.
And I thought it summed it up really well. This clip's quite widely out there, so a lot of people probably seen this one. But he talks about it and he says you have to be a monster. And he's right. Because if you don't have any teeth, then you can't do anything. Who the fuck can you save if you can't stand up to something, right? If someone is being bullied, if you can't stand up to the bully, how can you save that person?
Uh-huh.
If it's a serious situation, like a combat situation, well, you better have fighting training. If it's a legal situation, you better know the law.
Yep.
If maybe it's just simple communication skills you need to diffuse what could be just a misunderstanding at a party from becoming a bar brawl. Right? Yeah. Now, as fun as a bar brawl is, it's not fun when it happens in your own house. So these inner things within us have to be there because we have to have a monster that can start a bar brawl. But you got to have a monster that can stop a bar brawl. And I think it's often hard for us to talk about having an inner monster. It's hard to talk about that darkest side of us. So what are your thoughts on this idea, Ryan? Where do you see that struggle between the hero and the monster?
Well, let's make it a very simple example, right? The moment we think about the inner monster, we immediately think about aggression, violence. Let's take that as an example. I mean, I believe men are supposed to be violent.
Sure.
Supposed to be. Could you imagine you compared the you of now and the you compared it like a few years ago, not knowing BJJ? You are clearly now more dangerous, but because you know how to control your techniques through the medium of, you're clearly more value to whatever tribe you're from because now equate danger, being dangerous, knowing how to be dangerous, to being valuable to whatever village, tribe, or family you're from. If you take the storyline of the mafia, right, it's always about doing business. It's always about creating more value and making yourself more valuable to whatever group you're from. The whole idea of tribalism, right? At the end of the day,
heroic,
exactly. At the end of the day, it's all about how much value can I bring to my tribe and how can I grow in value. And a man that is not dangerous is a weak man, in my opinion. Also, Daniel and Eviat, welcome to the call. And what I found out during my teenager years was just knowing one style of taekwondo is not enough. I'm supposed to know Muay Thai and grappling as well. But knowing how to fight is not enough. At the very least, I need to know how to, talk back. Because not every situation can use violence. And you need to be smart about it. Can you tell me, in your experience, or give us some examples of how would you use, the verbal arts or the fighting arts?
Well, I was going, it's funny that you suggest that, because those are the two very obvious examples. And when I look at where I often demonstrate my monstrosity, you could say it's very rarely in such clearly pigeonholed things, but I can tell you a story or two. For example, there was a time back when I was a teenager when I got fucked with really, really heavily. I got messaged by this number saying, "Hey, it's such and such. I haven't seen you forever. Let's catch up." And I was being run around essentially by these people and fucked around who were just fucking with me. And when I
Right.
caught them, they were laughing at me. They were mocking me. They thought it was hilarious and stuff. They're like, I'm like, you come to my town and you think you're going to do this? No, no, you're not. Now,
Right.
I just want to be clear here that I'm the kind of person that it takes a fair bit to fuck me off. But once you fuck me off, I really will be a fucking nightmare. Like, I am an absolute nightmare. I'm fucking destructive. I'm a complete weapon, and I'm very dangerous. I just don't ever cross those lines, because I'm a very sensible person who understands the consequences. And as
Right.
much as we all love watching Vikings, we don't live in that time, and it's not currently Viking law. You can't just go running off and starting serious beef with people. But you can't turn up to my town and do that either.
Right.
So I went around and caught up with my friends. And as I told them the story, it was actually the group and the tribe that came together, and we went down to their campsite. And, well, 5 or 6 people in the darkness sounds like an army, man. They were absolutely shitting themselves, and I stood there in the middle of their camping ground and made them beg on their knees and cry for
Uh-huh.
the terror attack to stop. Now, that is monstrous. That is literally a scene out of a fucking movie. But if I'm pushed to that point to demonstrate, don't fuck with me, I will do that. But it's very rare, especially these days. I mean, these days we had a scenario lately where someone did something pretty bad, and I had people asking me if they wanted that person to disappear permanently,
Mm.
and I had the power and responsibility in my hand to sway that decision one way or another. And I said, no, just leave them alone. Karma's karma. Whatever comes around will come around. I don't need to be going and doing that, because, again, we don't live in the time of the Vikings. It's not Ragnar of Lothbrok. You can't just cut the head off everyone who's your enemy. You've got to be
Exactly.
smarter than that.
Exactly. It
And
reminds
that's
me
what I,
of The Godfather, kind of, because that's
yeah,
kind of what he keeps doing.
yes,
As
exactly.
we look back at the old, American Italian movies, we start to realize that the best way to do this is kind of the way the Italian mafia likes to do this, preferably non-violence, if possible, and when there's no other choice, well, it's time to pay in blood. But even that, it's
That's
short, it's quick, it's subtle, no one knows. But everybody will at some point find out people are missing.
well, that's very important, because you've got to demonstrate that level of power to generate respect, unless you're going to rely on something else your entire life to provide you some kind of power. Like, money only goes so far when you're in a country that has very loose laws and not a lot of protection. You're going to have to use that money to start buying bodyguards and start
Yeah,
buying physical protection if you travel to certain places. Like
right,
in first world countries, it's turning into that shit.
right.
So that level of dangerousness, it was something you, in the beginning of the podcast, you mentioned about being a man and having that aggression. Well,
Yeah,
that monster, that deadly side of us, you don't have to be a man. Women can be extremely deadly. They can have an extreme monster inside of them at any turn.
sure.
And part of what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a woman I can respect the monster inside of her, because she has it under control. She needs to be able to use it, but she needs to be able to use it calculating, like a chess person, not like well, at the end of the day, I'm stunningly hot and I can use this to get whatever I want. So OnlyFans, here we go. Okay, sure, you can use the monster inside of you, but the way you're using it is like a sledgehammer. No, you can go right to the top without ever having to take your clothes off, because you know how to use your skills. And I respect that more, especially like, hey, look, at the end of the day, I love all kinds of women and I have different kinds of relationships with different kinds of women. But the
Naturally.
woman I'm looking for long term is the one who can climb to the top using the skill without doing that.
I
Just
see.
like the people
I
I want
think I'm
beside me,
getting
I
what you're
want to be
saying.
able to do the same thing in their areas, right? I want them to be deadly, and I don't care if they're men or women. The people around me, I want them to be good at what they're good at, and I
Yeah,
want them to be someone you're like. When it comes to that area, fuck, bro, he's the best. She's the best. They're
yeah,
dangerous, and the monster. I want my tribe to be made up of monsters if
of
you're on the
course.
outside, and heroes if you're on the inside. So the
Yeah,
monster and the hero are actually the same thing. A hero has to be monstrously powerful to the enemy.
of course. Else he's just a
So
weak
that
little bunny, right?
it, absolutely right. Yeah,
It's like that
100%.
whole like a virtue-seeking warrior bullshit. You're not actually being virtuous. You're just pretending to be. And there's a difference
Correct.
between the virtuous man, which is by definition dangerous because he practices it on a very consistent level. It is like the idea of a man that upholds his own principles, right?
Mhm.
And the point you made on, men and women being dangerous, of course, all dangerous, all humans to an extent. We all have this darkness that we not only try to control, but try to express in different ways. But
Yep.
also, I start to be reminded of what Shane Smith's book said, science of attraction, where it's not just about the money. That's part of it. That's just part of it. It's also in the way that you make the money and also in the way that you build your character and demonstrate your strengths.
In the way that you use the money,
Well, of
right?
course, of course.
Because you can demonstrate that you're a protector of loved ones with
Yeah,
your money, or you
yeah,
can demonstrate you're a selfish asshole.
of course, of course. There's a difference between,
And
you could be earning, let's say, 10, 20K a month, but you spend all your money on hookers and strippers and whatever. And then you have the other guy that, puts aside a little bit of money for his parents so that they can live on a better life.
mhm, mhm.
To his little brother, little sister, helping the community, and even better, helping the orphanages. These kids need help. They might have not gotten the opportunities, or the same parental love that you'll ever get, but at the very least, they can get some school supplies. At the very least,
Oh yeah.
they can feed their stomachs. And that is way more respectable than a lot of other bullshits. I mean, to this day, I will never real understand why people invest so much in games. But that's me, hey,
Invest so much in what? Sorry,
games,
games like video games.
not video games. That same money
Oh,
could have
okay.
been used, to feed a kid.
Oh, right. Like you mean? Oh, you mean like yeah, yeah, yeah. People who they're buying video game items and stuff like that instead of using that money for a good cause.
Exactly, because remember
Well, that
that famous quote of, it takes a village to raise a child, and it takes only one child to burn the whole village down, and that's that monster I'm talking about. We need to
it's
we need to raise pragmatic monsters, but if you
Well, that's
misraise
the
it,
interesting thing
what's up?
because the inner monster within them, right? Like
Yeah,
that is where the inner monster within them, they haven't sorted it out. So their monster is craving, what's the word I'm looking for? Like some sense of escape. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
directing the energy into escape. Because I've like, if you were to say video games can be an addiction, I would have to say that I've suffered from that shit, right? I have an addictive personality and I've been a world champion at video games. Okay, well, to be fair, I didn't win, but I got to that level,
Right.
right? Where I played at that stage. So I did the average. I think I managed to work out for a year, I played 8 hours a day minimum every day. I averaged it out.
Jesus.
Right? So I was a professional. I full time job. And that commitment was because in my real life, I couldn't create the life that I wanted. I didn't believe that I could. So I created the life that I wanted in the best place that I could, and that was in an online space. And
Right.
your inner demons and inner monsters and things, as I eventually first learned to create that life in an online space. Then one day it became, fuck, I have to do this in the real world. Now my real life is like a video game. It's like a
Right.
dream. I have the coolest fucking allies. I have characters around me. I have
Right.
incredible storylines. I have weird missions and adventures that constantly keep it interesting. And it's not easy, but it's not stressful, right? Like you don't often get stressed when you're playing a video game. You might get frustrated and you might get challenged and you might have to rise to overcome something. But if you get stressed, that's probably not the video game for you. It's not one thing to play
Fair
games.
enough.
But my life's become that way. And that energy of not being able to be stressed, it's
Mhm.
the parallel of, well, I know the monster is available to handle anything. That person
Mm.
decides to act up, or this person decides to whatever, or some shit goes down. Monster's sitting right there on a leash in its cage, waiting for the chance, but it's tamed and it knows that its job is to sit there and wait for the chance. Because the hero needs to be that. And if you look at an example like, I don't want to spoil Vikings for people who haven't seen it, and I haven't seen the whole thing. So, right,
Mhm.
again, principle of spoilers. There's an episode where Ragnar has an enemy, and he's really nice to the guy. He's really
Mm.
nice to the guy, until the guy basically has his back turned, and he's like, he's like, I'm not stupid, right? And that shows he's so heroic and he's so genuine and he's such a nice person. It actually shows that, but then it shows the fact that he is a monster because he can be that happy with his family and with his enemy there next to him. And the second his enemy is then showing weakness and his family is safe, boom.
That makes
What, did you
sense.
forget I was a monster? Did you forget who the fuck I am? I'm a hero. I don't walk around with living life in that way because I'm at that level. I live
Mm.
life on a level where everyone else is like, fuck, man, you did that. Yeah, I did that. That's why they tell stories, because I actually had the balls to do what other people just dream about. You know,
Mm.
that's the life that I have, and the life that I've helped my clients and the other people around me have is a life that other people look at and go, what am I missing? Either
Right.
because they're sharp and they realize that there's some secret and there's something here that they can learn and master and they'll get it and they'll be able to have this, or they're jealous and they think that, well, it can't be perfect, there must be something hiding. All right, no, actually they just took pain, struggle, grief and everything, and now I've got a pretty good happy life, thanks.
Well, at the end of
I've
the
got a
day,
pet
at
mod.
the, at the end of the day, man, it's all about maximizing what works and minimizing what doesn't. Leverage your resources. A hero needs to leverage his monster, be it by expressing it through martial arts, keep polishing his fucking fangs, be it through public speaking, facing his fears, delegating as a leader, shoot. Because let's say me as a business owner, I can't do everything. I can do all aspects of the sales or all aspects of the marketing. Sometimes the system needs to take over, etc. And I love the example that you took because it's a good man, right? For his family. If you're not part of his tribe, you can kindly fuck off in essence. And even better, if you decide to form a danger to my family. If you're dangerous to my family, I either make you one of my own so that I can use your monster for the family
Mm-hmm.
and of course help you
Mm-hmm.
along the way. And if you're not, well, the moment you show weakness is the moment I strike.
I really like what you said about,
Mm-hmm.
if you're dangerous and I can see that monster, I want to use you for my family. Like, I want
Mm-hmm.
you to come and join my family, right? If you've got a fantastically exquisite monster within you, come and
Mm-hmm.
join my family. We're playing fucking Pokemon around here. We want all the monsters, right? So thinking about a conversation I had with somebody recently, I was talking to them and they said, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And I said, that's a lot of work you're doing for another person. You're really investing a lot there. And they turn around and go, oh, well, actually, no, this is my life. And I can do anything that I want, because as much as I've put this investment in, I can wrap it up and I can pull the whole thing out with me at any time. I've got my own ass covered. As much as I'm doing it all for this person, this is my life.
Right.
And I was like, oh, there you go. And for a second, I thought you were getting soft. And I thought you were forgetting about your inner monster. But no, you're running circles and everybody around you. And I said, you know what? It's fascinating, because all my life, I've known you. I've seen you run circles around everyone because you have that inner monster. And they turned around and they said, yeah, but not you. And it was like, in that moment, that's why they're above everybody else. They're honest enough to admit that they're below me. But if they had tried to say, oh, but I run circles around you, I would have been like, nah, you're like everybody else. But they could see the fact that I could call them on their monster, they knew. And they had to be like, yeah, look, I get that I'm here, but you're a level above me. And in that moment, I was like, that's the level of respect that makes me say, I want you on my tribe. It's exactly like you said. You recognize the monster, but it's someone who's like, well, here's my monster, and my monster has a power score of 5,782.
Right.
But you're 7,400, so I can recognize that you're better than me. And you're like, well, that's what I want. Someone who's proud of what they've got and is smart enough to realize where other people are. And we can talk about our inner monster and a hero and all that kind of stuff, but that level of sense and rationality is what I'm looking for in all of my business relationships, friendships, intimate relationships, like casual relationships. Like, I don't want anyone to come to my house to just casually have a drink who doesn't have their shit together. I mean, it's going to happen. But the point is, you want strong, powerful, monstrous characters and figures around you, because you're actually safer that way. Not only are you safer because someone who is strong and independently able to deal for themselves doesn't constantly need to rely on you to do that for them, but on the way that if anything comes along that is a bigger threat, you're not looking around at everyone like, okay, well, there's 30 of us, and 30 times 1, we're all strength 1, so we're about like 1. Okay, shit, that's not good. It's a strength 20 opponent. We're fucked. But if everyone was strength 2, well, 30 times 2 is 60 versus a strength 20 opponent, you've got 3 times the strength. If everyone was just a little bit not a fucking complete loser. So putting yourself amongst the weakest is not a good strategy. You just compare the extreme. You've got to have strong people around you. You've got to have monsters around you. You've got to have different flavors of monsters around you. Like, fuck yeah, Pokemon's got it on, man. They had that principle. We've got a fire to deal with the grass Pokemon. We've got electric to deal with the water. You've got to have that contrast.
Right.
Dan, did you have something to say on that?
Yeah, just going off, people who are absolute beasts, but in the way of being a hero. It draws my attention back to an older anime that I watched called Berserk.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously Ryan knows about it. Going for something, I guess, a bit more recent, The Witcher. He is an absolute beast, but he's also a hero. Yeah. He might not be on the same line. There's a few things that could be corrected there, but just looking at those characters, especially Berserk, he was an absolute beast. And through the actual anime series, he softened slightly for a woman and became a hero, a protector of her. Obviously it didn't end well because certain animes can't, but just being the beast, being the hero, it's something that I would probably relate to for this particular topic.
I see where you're coming from, right? Because it's a very good analogy, and The Witcher for me, especially, I've seen that recently twice, so it's quite fresh in my mind, and I've used it as a teaching example a couple times as well. because he demonstrates such heroic character and such monstrous character, and he modulates the pair. He will literally slice somebody's head off, and then the next person will be there and he'll be like, well, it's actually against my code. I'm just not going to hurt you. And you're like,
yeah,
you're in the middle of a bloodthirsty rage, man. How do you just do that? Because he is a hero, and he's a hero in such a realistically gritty world that everybody fucking hates him. But he's still a hero, and he doesn't break his code. I think The Witcher is one of the best examples of a hero in modern TV. It's really good that you bring that up. I like that point.
You make a good point. If you look at the whole idea of stoicism, it's also said in that to embrace your stoicism is to take action upon it, is to live it. Well said. Thank you, Daniel, for that great example. So now I kind of forgot where we were.
Well, look, it's good because that's pretty much about, we're probably coming up, we've got a couple minutes left. So like in sort of summary, right, that ability for you to almost like be evil, right, to turn on the evil and say the other person is currently not acting in my best interest, and I have to do everything possible to defeat them, that doesn't rain consequences on my head that I can't handle, right? You're that, like, it's not like evil, it's like survival, right? Evil's not the right flavor to it. There's cruelty in evil. You're not that. You're about survival. It comes down to the fact of, look, I'm a nice guy and I don't want to hurt anyone, but if like it comes down to me dying, well, I'm going to punch you in the face because I'm not going to die, right? You're pushed to that point where, okay, now roll up the sleeves, cuffs off, fucking the beast is unleashed. And you need to be able to have the self-control to not be afraid to do that, but also know how to put it back in the box real quick, real fucking quick. Because if you if you punch somebody out and you're going, and then cops walk through the door, your energy, your attitude, everything had better change in that split second so that they identify you as an ally, not someone fighting that they have to deal with. And you don't know if that's ever going to happen to you, right? So you have to have that level of discipline and stuff within you, because if you're so disciplined that you know your energy can go from full-on fighting to instantly calm in a second, then if a situation requires fighting, you don't have to take 3 seconds to work out if you can get out of that fight, because you know you can just disengage. And your discipline at having that monster contained, so much of it comes down to your inner mental mind, beliefs, and how you're programmed and what you think. And we don't know this stuff. Like, this is what I loved. I picked up a new client this week, and we were working deeply in those tiny little beliefs that he had that were holding him back, because he's a really brilliant guy, but there were a couple of little things around it's hard to say exactly. I don't want to like break confidentiality. You could just say it would be a healthy mental frame on relationships versus productivity. A few things that it was like, we just have to talk about how you see those issues. And so on a deeper level, your mind can be a bit more freer and you'll live a bit better in that way. Now, that's like a very technical explanation of how I work, but I talk into the issues in people's minds to help them solve them without being like, right, we're going to have a therapy session, right? We're just having a conversation and you're getting healed. You just don't know about it. And that's why you always love talking to me. And I know that vibe when people start communicating in that way, where they go, look, I know there's something that I want you to just give me a hand with. Let's talk this out. I can feel that energy. So it works very well. If someone approaches me with the potential of being a client, I can tell they're about that business because they've got that energy within them. And I imagine you're much the same, where because you've got a tamed monster for your ability, when it comes to anything where data and analytics and improving your business, anyone comes along the radar, you're very good at spotting potential clients and onboarding them right.
That's right.
It's in that communication. It's that ability to identify thoroughly the environment and what the value of everything in that environment is in a reference, not just to me, but to other people, right? So you're constantly calculating everything in your environment, cataloging it, and thinking, what could it be useful for, while still living your life. And you just want to practice having these thoughts. And then as you start thinking like that, it starts becoming a background process.
All right.
So I can walk through, I can walk through a fucking, I'm thinking like a neighborhood where there's like, it's like run down, all the rest of it, and it's like kind of crappy. But I can walk along, and because I know cars, I can be like, well, that half dead thing over there, that's actually worth money. That's a project. Like I know I can knock on that guy's door and be like, hey bro, I'll give you $300 for that thing on the lawn. And maybe he's like, nah bro, fuck off, I know what it's worth. Or he's like, well, what about $1,000? And I'm like, grand it is. Get it home, fix it up, throw $3,000 into it, and it's worth 15. Boom. Because I know what that car's worth. I know that shit. I'm currently going to visit my friend fucking Bob about his mental health. But because I run these programs, I run these things, I know what I'm good at, and I know where my inner monster works. It works on seeing these things around. And I use the car example because I know that the people here in this podcast will definitely relate. And in fact, we know a brother who literally has door knocked and gotten amazing car deals from literally doing that thing. So that it's constantly available to us once you start like taming the monster and realizing that you've got to let it out of its cage to play. Now, it doesn't have to kill anyone or kill anything, but you've got to let it out for some competitive something. So it can flex a little bit on the world. Maybe that's expressing yourself musically, or just posting a video about something online, or getting real stuck into some business. But that kind of shit signals to other people out there who have a monster, who have their shit aware, hey, he's a person I want to know, or she's a girl I want to know. And you start to create the right people around you and the right energy. I've really come to realize how much of self-development work is about working on yourself so that your interactions with others work better, because you're only ever one. Other people always outnumber you. The more people you work with and together, the larger your tribe, the stronger you are. And the stronger your tribe, the stronger you are. And it multiplies, like in my earlier example. So that culture of being good to yourself and good to those around you and keeping on that vibe, it just creates such an empowering feedback loop where around here, we love the monsters. In conclusion, in summary, we love the monsters like fucking Pokemon. We want to catch them all. We want to raise them to their strongest level, because that's when they're at their best. And that's when they're most useful, when we know what our strengths and we know what our weaknesses are, because a strong man in control is safe. Any man not in control is not safe, no matter how strong or weak he is. It's about having control. So you've got to have that strength and then have control of it in balance.
Well said.
That's for me, brother.
Well said. Well said. Seeing we're on the time, I'll keep mine short, which connects to what you said. Being control of oneself is also extremely important. Knowing what you can offer is extremely important. Keep building on your strengths, and wherever you're weak, either get a coach to help you with it or build a team around it. Build your tribe or seek it out. Vibe attracts tribe. You're only as strong as your tribe. You might be the strongest man in the world, and even the literal strongman of the world have a literal tribe around them to build their muscles, get the nutrients, and even do boxing on the side. And on that note, seeing already over the 30-minute mark, that's it for the outtakes. This has been the Hero Podcast 64 with, of course, myself, Ryan G, Ryu from IMCnation and owner of Aligned Data Strategy, with my co-host, the real Pete Kirkwood, your empire builder, your kingmaker, and an all-one dangerous man. This has been the Hero Podcast. Be the best, fuck the rest, and may your life never be the same. Good morning, good evening, and good night.